Hello my guys, gals and non-binary pals, and welcome to a new episode here on Them Fatales. My name is Alicia, my pronouns are she, they, and today we're gonna watch the 5th episode of Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls!
Watch out for the big girls, watch out for the big girls.
Before we start, let me thank our Patreons. It's 5 of them, but for a channel as young as ours, it's really important and appreciated. If you like what we do here, and if you are in a comfortable and safe economical position, maybe consider give us $1, $2, $5, however much you feel comfortable with, because that support is what is directly allowing us to spend time doing research for videos and researching ideas, putting out new stuff. So it's a situation in which your help can directly affect how much we can do on this channel. So again, if you're in a comfortable position, you can check out Patreon, or for a one-off donation, there's PayPal. And now, on to Watch Out for the Big Girls, episode 5. Today is Come as the Clothing You Are Wearing Day. So I've tried to put on this headpiece that technically should transform me into a Muka girl, because I decided to wear these and then I was reminded that I have it, so why not use it? The episode today is Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, and we're gonna go right into it.
For a while, I was trying to find my place in this world. When I was young, I was interested in modeling. I didn't see many or any girls on there that looked like me growing up, feeling so out of place and so different from everybody else. I was on this path of not feeling the best or complete almost. But being here in this moment where I've always wanted to be, it feels like I belong. And honestly, I think this might be the happiest I've been ever.
So the crazy thing is, I never considered, of course, as a young woman to even remotely think that I could do anything about modeling. I explained in our videos about fatphobia and racism. In Italy, it's not just something a woman of my looks can do. Whereas here in the UK, there's a room for everyone, in the sense that there will be actors, there will be models that can reflect regular, normal people. In Italy, it's not the same. That's not considered, that's not allowed. It doesn't matter if it's actually representative of normal or not. I guess they literally have the idea that showing anything but beautiful and statuesque is glorifying unhealthy by being not that level of perfection. Like here in the UK, my broadband provider, not sponsored by the way, is Plusnet, and they've been using a normal, regular, chubby guy for years as their image guy. There's regular people in TV shows. I mentioned Olivia Colman in my video essay, but it's a common thing. It's you can see people reflecting any kind of background, any kind of looks, maybe in white supremacist stuff like Downton Abbey. No, it's just white cis people for a certain reason, but that's actually the next video say that we're making, by the way, Poshaganda. But I completely understand Chiara's vision of I didn't see someone like myself, so I wanted to be that person. It started to come in my head to be anything remotely close or apply to something remotely close to modeling and acting jobs just in the last 4 years since I moved to Cardiff. And you think before I was in London, so why couldn't I think of doing something there? Like that's much more the neuralgic center of anything fashion, cinema, and the kind of stuff here in the UK. I still carried with me the idea of Italy of you can't do that kind of stuff. Have you seen yourself? Here in Cardiff, because there's a very budding and growing cinema and television hub with BBC Wales. There are agencies that need background actors all the time, and a few friends of mine were doing it. Quinn Birkelt, actually, which shout out to. They're the first one who actually mentioned to me, oh, I actually do this, and it could be, you know, useful if you want that as a career or just as petty cash, really. So since then, I've actually started being a background actor myself. I don't have actual acting ambitions, but it's something that I very much like because it doesn't require any crucifying expectations of me. I need to show up there. I need to listen to what they tell me that they want me to do or sit there. But compared to what I was doing in corporate jobs, I don't have as much pressure on me. I don't feel like my life is on the line as much. And that contributes not to give me as much anxiety. I lived for my job and I feared for my job all the time when I was working like for MTV, for Warner, because I guess it was partially imposter syndrome, but it was also the idea that, oh, so many people fight to be here, that because I got here, I need to be more and more worth of being here. I don't know. I think it's the way that capitalism sells us the idea of hustling and doing more work than it's required and working extra time without being paid, because that's exactly what those companies got out of me. So I very much like not doing that. But beside doing supporting acting, what I very much am looking into and I've sent a few applications for in the last few months is to modeling agencies. And just the fact that I'm saying it sounds ridiculous in a part of my head, because I'm like, who wants to be and seeing you, fat thing? But then there's the other side of, if I had seen a fat thing like me when I was 12, 13, maybe I wouldn't have felt so constantly inept. And just for that reason, I'm just like, sure, why not? Maybe I won't be needed, maybe they won't get me. But the point is, I like that that's a possibility now. There are specific agencies that actually look for diversity. There's one in London called Ugly, which is ironic. There's one that I saw in a TV show that it's basically the British photography contest, which is basically 4 episodes with ranking, and they specifically hired disabled models, models that are non-white, models that have peculiarities that are beyond the tall, blonde, skinny kind of image that we have, and that's consoling. And if I can be part of that, amazing. Amazing for 2 reasons. One, again, the first one will always be maybe 12-year-old me, someone that is like 12-year-old me can see that and feel like, oh, I don't have to hate myself all the time. And that's a huge difference, by the way, to glorifying obesity or anything like that. Not hating yourself and setting up for a future and a life where you don't have to damage yourself if you don't fit into very strict mold that the beauty standard demand of you. It's not glorifying anything other than life. We live in different bodies, we live different lives, and that's okay to see. The fact that in my day nothing was shown apart from the heroin chic is what made me hate myself. And it didn't make me hate myself well enough to do something, you say, except that I've done something, I've done plenty. But nobody that has not gone through it can understand it. You see me fat, you think that's all I was and all I'll ever been because I don't want to put out that donut. If you knew how long it's been, how many years it's been since I had a donut, but you don't care. So I think because you're beyond caring to understand what's important, it's the practical side. And the practical side is if fat people are shown living, simply living, like Little Big Girls is showing us, then there's a good chance that a fat child, a fat teenager doesn't have to self-harm today. That's the best that we can hope for, and I'm glad that we hope for that. And if you think that they need to self-harm in order to get skinny, well, you're glorifying self-harm. I'm not glorifying obesity, but you're glorifying people hurting themselves. So
Crystal come into the room, she's glowing. She isn't the Crystal that I last saw her.
So, yay, we have Crystal back. Crystal is the girl from the first episode who was so good that Lisa was like, no, there's no room for you in the mansion. You're going directly with my hired dancers because you're gonna dance with me. You're my dancer now. You're gonna come on tour with me. You're one of the big girls already. So Crystal is back. We're talking a bit to her. And amongst other things, there's the slight conflicts that have come out between Jasmine and Ariana, Jasmine and Ashley, Jasmine and the house, which I think it's gonna be something relevant in this episode. You might have noticed so far I skimmed around it because it's not something that I want to focus on. As I mentioned in the first episode of this series, something that I love about this show is that it removes the competition between contestants, and in this case between girls, because the competition is with yourself, growing better than you were yesterday, and it's not to take someone else down. Something that unfortunately I guess the production had to give room to, because if it was existing might as well show it, was the fact that Jasmine seemed to have a bit of that antagonistic feeling. And I go into it a bit in the first episode and then I don't mention it again, although there are other little episodes that happened about it. And now because they're talking to Crystal, Ashley brings up, oh, there's been a bit of this fuss with Jasmine, but it's fine. And Jasmine, of course, doesn't take it well to be called out in front of Crystal, and it will degenerate a bit through the episode. Now, beside what's happening, I want to focus on one thing about this, because you know I'm partial to this. I've said it in the first episode. I'm not an antagonistic person. I get anxiety in front of competitiveness. And I know, and I've feared all my life, that seems to be a default thing that women seem to have amongst each other. One of the first comments that I got on my first video essay here about fatphobia and racism in Italy and misogyny in Italy, actually got a comment from an Italian person saying, oh yeah, but it's women's fault for wanting to be better, for wanting to be prettier than each other. And I know about this stuff. It's something that I've always feared being in girl groups in any kind of context, because I'd always been exposed to a level of pettiness and cattiness and inward competition that made me just very uncomfortable. Also, starting off from the position of being a fat girl, I knew that I was less than a girl for that. Society had always reminded me of that. So I always started off with a foot back, and if there needed to be the butt of a joke, that was me. Another summer camp, I remember, another summer camp that I went to, and this I was already like 11, 12, so getting into my teenagehood and the person that I would become. And there was another big girl, and you would think, well, team up. No, she led the vicious attacks and bullying to me. I remember her and her people, her gang, surrounding me in a corner, forcing me to try on a belt that she had tried on, and they would let me go if, I don't know, like, I don't know what the point was. The point was that she wanted to compare how small the belt was on my waist and how small it would go on her waist. And I refused to do that, so I never knew what was the point. Like, if I had been bigger than her, so if the belt measured larger on me, would she have bullied me harder with her gang? If it had been smaller, would she have bullied me harder? Like, there was no win. And I don't understand. I guess I understand now. Like, the point is that when you're already in a marginalized group, one of the ways to think that you can get out is to be on the side of the oppressor to your similars. So pick-me's is not just something that exists between women, it's in any kind of thing. If you think about Blair White in the trans community, she's a clear example of that. She wants to appease conservatives so that they will like her and concede to her, the truth is that never happens. Like to Blair White, it has happened that she was debating against, I don't know, trans women using bathrooms or whatever. And then the conservatives got to her as well, just saying, there's nothing you can do to help us get where we want. You just need to stop existing. And these people don't understand, and they have it hard enough being part of a marginalized community, then they just decide every man and woman for themselves. It's very wrong, but I have more sympathy than condemnation for these people. Or at least I've tried in the last few years. Like before, they just scared me and pushed me to be on my own more often than not, because if that's something that I need to expect to watch my back from, it's not worth it. It's as simple as that. So in this context, it makes me feel like a lot of people have wanted to focus on the negatives of Jasmine's behavior. I think there's a post on the Lizzo subreddit where it's just about trashing Jasmine. And I personally feel that that doesn't get us do anything good. So it saddened me that in such a safe environment still, where no one gets eliminated, Jasmine has issues with being taught evidently that between girls there needs to be competition, and that made her feel bad enough to act up like she does. I think the show is amazing in not focusing, as I mentioned, on competition. Like it's not like people need to get eliminated every time. But I don't blame Jasmine for having that attitude, because in today's world, women have been directed by the patriarchy to fight each other. So I don't blame Jasmine for falling prey of that narrative. I just hope that she can learn and grow and see that there's no reason for that narrative to exist. That kind of narrative does girls no good, not herself, not the others. And we need to shift and refocus as to why these ideas of being better than the other girls, being not like the other girls, being picked amongst girls make us better. Because it's a patriarchal lens on womanhood, and we need to break that lens.
Mermaid shit. Purple pink mermaid. Exactly.
I'm like embracing being sexy for the first time in my life. That word is still a little scary to me. I'm really excited to feel like a grown woman.
So they're having their makeovers because they need to create the stage personas. And I love the attitude of all of them. Ariana is like, I'm gonna try and discover being sexy for the first time in my life. Girl, preach and well done. It took me much, much longer to concede that there's a side of me that it's like that. So I love that Lizzo put her entire entourage to the service of the girls. Do your hair, do your makeup, find a new piece, a new way to look at yourself on the wardrobe side. And some of these are just like, wow, the way that Asia turns out platinum blonde, it's just...
Wow. Expensive. Wow. Haircut is everything.
I am in awe of Asia. It seems like such a small thing. To me, hair, I always try to think of it as it's such long hair growing on your head. But sometimes, I guess for the ways that we're used to look at pictures, look at magazines, look at beauty, it does change the way that a person shows so much. So I completely understand the black culture around hair and around weaves and around the change that it can be. And wow!
I do love the suit, but I feel like it's too plain. Okay. How can we what do we have that I can put something extra of? I don't know, I just feel very simple, and I'm not simple. So we're moments away from stepping on the runway, and I looked in the mirror and I'm like, what is going on? I'm a little outside of my comfort zone. I feel like I'm just blending, and I'm not used to just blending. My style is more of crazy patterns, things that people are afraid to do, and I express myself in a way that I want to express myself. But they wanted to see me a little more simple.
Is that feeling better for you?
I understand Moesha completely. She comes into the house with a very standout kind of style. She has blue hair already. I think she's a stylist, like as a day job. Like you can see that there's a flashy, in a good way, standout way that she has. So I think, ironically, in this episode, the challenge for the makeover for her is to tone it down, which I find slightly cool. Like, I understand it would be very hard for me to do the same. Like, you should see my wardrobe and understand that. I understand that then going in a suit would be something very interesting for my style, because I've never worn one. So it would be interesting to look at me in a way that I've never presented myself. And I guess that's part of the challenge. But also it's ironically going very much outside her comfort zone, because I'm not used to be this plain. There are many reasons why we set out our persona and personality the way that it is, but ultimately is to be comfortable with ourselves. I understand that pushing through the boundaries and going out of our comfort zone is what can make us grow, but I also understand that there can be a compromise. So she starts off with a suit that I find ill-fitting on her. Thankfully they sorted out a bit, and she has this amazing blue turquoise hair, and then she gets a weave instead that is normal, and it seems to sort of pay off because
Moesha, I did not know who you were. I asked repeatedly, I said, who is this? Can someone remind me who this is? Because you have blue hair and braids. You have a more kind of masculine kind of energy. You came out here with the Aaliyah glittery titty bra, and you look like you're having a good ass time.
She been shaking ass all night.
And you're doing the fucking work, Moesha. You know what time it is. It's Moesha time!
So I guess the challenge there was to surprise, and it worked, because I think it's the only girl that Lisa goes like, who is this? I don't recognize these girls, and it's one of my girls. Why I don't recognize them? So it's worked in that sense, and I guess it is a shown of if you push a bit out of your comfort zone, at times it might be worth it. I still commend Moesha, because I don't know how I would do it. Basically, it's funny because there are times, as I mentioned before, I do support in acting, so background. I'm a wallflower. I love being a wallflower. It's so undemanding. But at times, what role you get depends on the wardrobe you have, and I can never get roles into professional settings if you have to play in an office, stuff like that, because I actually don't have the wardrobe of an office worker. I don't have a professional, smart kind of look. And the few times that I've gone into a scene where I'm supposed to be posh or elegant, it's very stretched for me, because my kind of elegant and elevated is black milk stuff like this. Like, it's not the idea of elegant and elevated that generic people might have in general. The idea of wearing a suit like Moesha did, as much as like it was clever than the way that they cut the jacket on her, it was still, I would have felt insecure. I need clothes to wrap my body in a certain way to feel like I can tap into that part of my confidence of, yes, I'm fat, I'm big, but I am this as well, and that's a power that I can draw from. But I need to be comfortable in my skin and in my clothes to do that. And when the clothes are not making me feel that comfortable because they need to push me outside of my comfort zone, it's a give and take. If you want me to go all out in confidence, I need to feel comfortable in what I wear. And kudos to Moesha to still behave that bitch 100%, even if she wasn't comfortable in the clothing, because she took up the challenge. And hey, it paid off. Lizzo was like, what's this one?
Jasmine.
Me! So my stage persona reminds me of a fierce person that I am when I'm performing, and I feel most understood when I'm performing because I have a very strong personality. I'm from the East Coast, like I just say it like it is, you know, and when I came into this house, immediately off the bat, like I just started butting heads with just like a few of these beautiful women. So
You find you've been butting heads with people.
yeah.
How many people?
I'm gonna call you Lil Sis.
We gotta watch what we say sometimes, you know, and how we say it.
On the left side.
Being in the studio, it should be fun again, you know? You don't gotta be so serious.
I feel like you maybe abused your power a little bit.
Oh, the shade.
You did call me out in front of Crystal.
Oh, I hurt your feelings?
No, I'm not hurt. I'm not a little girl.
Just a few. I think I have the kind of personality that challenges people. Some of the girls think that I'm a little aggressive, and maybe I am, but it comes from a good place. I always lead with honesty. That's the New York in me, like, eat the meat, spit out the bones. I'm fierce, and I'm unapologetic about it.
Girl, like what are you doing? Like you're saying stuff that didn't even need to be brought up at this time.
There's a lot to unpack here.
So I guess this is the episode where we need to talk about it because, as I mentioned before, I try to sort of look past the antagonism and competitiveness and the situation in which Jasmine was involved being like this. But this is the crucial episode where it needs to be addressed because, like, the episode addressed it. So what the way that she just came out to Lizzo saying, "Oh, I have a strong personality and I butted head with girls." I think, from how I see it, Jasmine thought that she was basically doing the same that Ashley had done, telling to Crystal, calling her out in front of Crystal, and she was being a step ahead here, calling Ashley and the other girls out, talking to Lizzo, without understanding what the issue at hand was. Clearly, again, I think. I cannot imagine the hard life and the hard way that a black woman in America has to go through to achieve ALF with twice the work, if not more. So I can understand, I can imagine where that strong sense of anger and fight can come from. And I completely understand, and I justify it, and I think that the stereotype of the angry black woman is, again, white patriarchy at play, so I do not buy into that at all. I think that's what can happen when you're exposed to that your entire life without being given an alternative, because you need to watch your back, especially from the way that white, cis, usually men, will try to put you down, no matter how hard it works. So I understand where this need comes from. I think something that might have got lost along the line is that she might be applying this kind of behavior to any context that she's in, because clearly it didn't get to her that she's in a safe enough context where she doesn't need to be that competitive, she doesn't need to be that antagonistic, she doesn't need to stand up above and beyond her peers. This is a sisterhood and we're all here elevating each other. I think Jasmine is so used, unfortunately, to have to fight for what she has, that it's just her default, and I cannot fault her for that. I just wish that, I don't know, somebody has sat her down, I don't know, but bringing it out to Lizzo, enormous air quote, the game she was playing was, I think, doing what Ashley had done. She brought it out to Crystal and then made Jasmine look bad in the eye of Crystal. Jasmine probably thought that if she brought up Ashley and Moesha and Ariana to Lizzo, she would have been the one ending up on top of it. Because I think, again, she missed the context of it is it's not a good thing that you have a strong personality, that you're clashing with girls, not in a safe environment like this, that just reveals that you have a need for that competition, or you don't feel safe not to turn off your guard and your antagonism. So things then evolve.
Jasmine, I wanna talk to you for a second.
Okay.
You came out here and said that you were having issues with girls. You know, at the end of the day, these things happen, but what makes it more concerning for me is that you've had issues with several girls in the house. It's really important to me that there's a camaraderie and a sisterhood of authenticity that happens. It's not just about dance around here.
Yeah.
It is about your heart, and it is about your ability to relate to each other. And a huge house rule is no toxicity.
I don't come with toxicity, Lizzo.
But the culture don't lie. The people don't lie. The energy don't lie. This isn't the first time I've heard about Jasmine causing some issues with the girls. I mean, I have eyes and ears everywhere, and they have been filling me in on how she hasn't really been clicking with the girls. I know that she has a beautiful story, and I know that she's a super honest person. But right now, the most important thing to me is, can my girls get along on that tour bus? Can my girls get along on that stage? Can I trust that my girls are going to be building a sisterhood of positivity, that there's no tension? That's the last thing I need to be worried about when I'm on tour. You have a lot more of the peeling back to do before I feel like you are in a vulnerable enough place to connect with me and to connect with the girls on stage. So please say goodbye to your sisters, because you have to go back.
This is the first time since the start of the show where a girl is sent home, because it's not mandatory for anyone to go home. There are 10 spots for 10 dancers to go to Bonnaroo. But it is a matter of discovering who these people are, and if they can make it on stage, they can make it on tour, they can make it in a good atmosphere with each other. And it's something that has been mentioned since the beginning, since the first episode, of being there for each other and supporting each other and elevating each other. And I think the most crucial bit of what Lizzo just said to Jasmine was the part about vulnerability. And I think it's something that I mentioned, I think in the second episode when Tanisha compliments Ariana. I know that it takes a lot to feel in a safe place enough that you can elevate someone else. Because, again, as girls, we are raised to despise our own gender and gender mates, and know that we are not all that much, and the only way that we can be anything is by going over and elevated and not be like our gender mates, not being like other girls. The all not like other girls issue, the all pick-me issue raises from that, from the fact that the patriarchy has told us already as women you are on the B level, on the B series, you're not that much. You need to be different from what we expect of women and be better. And so this natural idea of competitiveness is not natural at all. It comes from the idea of womanhood that the patriarchy has. But it's so ingrained in society and in any kind of media that we cannot escape it until someone sets us down, tells us about feminist literature, and we realize that all this time we've been fighting each other instead of fighting the patriarchy. But somebody needs to tell us that. Something that I wish had happened in this episode was not for Jasmine to leave now, but for somebody to go to her and explain this to her. And I know that she even mentions, like, I'll get therapy, I'll work through my issues. So that's good. What I wish was that at any point she could have felt safe enough to not have to put up that persona, that to never relax and feel like this is not a competition against any of you. This is a competition about me and myself and what we were doing yesterday and doing better than that. That's the competition. Jasmine wasn't in that place, and I wish there was a way to make people feel safe enough to realize that they can grow past that, because they can. If you're insecure and you see somebody standing up for you, you know that they want to keep you in a safe place. So I wish that it's something that could have happened. But again, it's not on the other girls to feel attacked and also to be the bigger girl and suit Jasmine down. So I understand that we all have to do our own work, fundamentally. I just hope that sending her home now doesn't allow that side of her head to go, see, you were right watching your back because we were sent home. So I hope that this doesn't make her bitter. But honestly, I've seen the trailers, I've seen the presentation when they went to the premiere, and there was Jasmine, and there was all the original cast, and that makes me happy, and that makes me think that besides whatever we are shown, since it finished, this is a sisterhood. Issues have been solved. We're still shown something because it needs to be entertaining. I don't think that the producers of this show are pushing as much the competitive, entertaining bit as something like Drag Race would. So I'm really glad about that. But it's nice to sort of see between the lines of all the stuff that the girls have posted on TikTok, on Instagram, since they could say that, oh, I'm gonna be on the show. I think that since it finished, it already grew into something more and bigger and better. So that gives me hope. But I genuinely think that what's worth focusing here is not the way that Jasmine behaved per se, it's the reasons that forced her to behave like this. It's the insecurity of being a black woman in today's society, in today's society that is created by white patriarchy. And then of course it makes you feel like if you ever dial down your energy, your anger one bit, the effort that you're already making twice, 3 times as hard, they're gonna eat you up alive. So I kind of understand that. I hope that with some help she can now understand that there was a context in which she could feel safe. She can feel safe with other girls, because when we become aware of the issues that the patriarchy is, then we have each other's back, and the competition is not one against the other, it's taking down the patriarchy. I hope you found this interesting. I hope you have my same drive in creating a sisterhood and taking down who really is at fault here. And I will see you in the next episode, which is gonna, oh my god, we're over the hill. It's gonna be episode 6.